Hello everyone, I am Melanie Youngsma of the Lansing Journal, here with our managing editor, Josh Bootsma.
Hi everybody.
This is our first video in the month of August.
Yep.
And we took some time to look back at the month of July. Josh, we published 145 articles in July.
It's quite a bit.
It is. We've been busy.
Yeah, right.
And I was curious about viewership of those articles.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that our most popular article was viewed more than 4,000 times.
It's good.
That is good.
Yeah.
Our least viewed article was viewed 67 times.
That's something.
So that's quite a range.
That is a range.
But it got me thinking about why some stories are viewed more than others, and
Yeah.
is viewership important? Are those numbers important?
Mm-hmm.
So Josh and I spent some time talking about that, and we're going to share some of those thoughts with you this morning.
Yeah, just a few reasons of why we publish what we do, even though it might not, some stories don't reflect as being well read, and so why do we do that? So that's just kind of our goal today, is to get into that a little bit.
Yeah, and I think maybe the overarching theme here is that just because something is not popular does not mean it's not important.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And we've seen that we have many examples of that.
Right. And we're not just driven by the views, we're driven by something more than that. As a newspaper, we're information sharers, right?
Right.
And so kind of to get into the first point here, all the information that we share is relevant. It doesn't make the cut if it's not relevant. So we get plenty of press releases from the state that we do publish. We get plenty that we don't publish. There's a lot of press releases from the governor about things happening in the southern communities in Illinois that we're not publishing that because it's not relevant for our community. But we often don't know the relevance of a specific piece of information for our community. So sometimes, the state has different releases. We get releases from South Suburban College or Governor State. An example of one that we wouldn't know if it was relevant until we published it happened in the spring. We published something from the state about utility assistance. People in a certain income bracket could receive utility assistance from ComEd. And that's one of those that we publish fairly regularly, but we don't know what kind of impact it's going to have.
Seemed important.
Right.
So let's publish it.
And we had no idea, but now it has almost 1,500 views, and we heard from someone who, because of reading that story, saved $4,000 on insulation for their house. They were going to contract someone to do it. They read our story. They got it for free. So that's a tangible impact of saving someone money.
And that was a news release from the state that, we thought it was relevant, didn't know if it was important, but we published it, and to save somebody $4,000, that's a big deal.
Right, absolutely.
So that's a good example of something we could not have predicted would be an outcome of that story. But we thought it might be important, so we published it.
Right.
Another story that was published this month was about the suicide hotline number.
Right.
Now that did not get a lot of views, but that's still important information.
Right.
And, maybe it's good that it didn't get a lot of views.
Right.
Maybe that means people aren't needing that information right now, so we're glad about that. But we want that information accessible to people when they do need it, so we publish it.
Absolutely. Hopefully we will never know the true impact of publishing that, but that number is 988 for the suicide prevention hotline, and we don't know who needs that, and we want to share that information.
Right. Also, one of the reasons we exist is to create a record of Lansing.
Right.
The story of Lansing. And so some of these articles are part of our story, part of our history, whether or not they get viewed.
Right.
And you found an interesting example of that from back in 2020.
Back in 2020, Melanie is doing her normal routine of picking which press releases to publish, and she chose in January to publish a press release from the state that got 60 views. Probably not relevant, right? Wrong. It was very relevant. It was the second COVID case to come to the state of Illinois back in January of 2020. So we had that on our website. At the time, no one really cared that much.
We didn't know if it was important.
Right. But COVID obviously has had a huge impact on Lansing. It's had a huge impact on our business even. And towards the end of 2020, we put together a timeline of here's how we got to where we are. let's review. And that was really good to look back. Oh, here's a record of when it first happened. So we wouldn't know that was relevant at the time that we published it.
Right. And when you're in a thing like COVID and you get used to how, we kept calling it the new normal. This is, you got used to being in quarantine. You got used to hearing the word COVID.
Yeah.
We talked about coronavirus and then COVID-19 and then just COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're gradually changing along with the times, and you don't realize those changes until you go back and look at January. Oh, that was before we even knew that coronavirus was a thing.
Yes, right.
We got this information. We didn't realize its relevance until much later.
Right.
And so to be able to get that glimpse of that timeline is important.
Right, and that's a paradigm that applies not just to COVID, but to other things. A lot of things that happen in this town start on an agenda somewhere, a planning and zoning agenda, a village board agenda, something. So to look back and say, oh, see that finished building? Here's when they first came before the village board. Here's what the process has been. That's valuable. That's a valuable record of what's going on in the town of Lansing, and we'd love to provide that.
Another category of news that does not get a lot of views is weather.
It's weather. Melanie's favorite
I'm
category.
going to make another plug for weather. And we will continue to publish the weather every day because it's fun. And it's a way for our community to contribute to the community newspaper.
Yeah.
We've been getting more photos from more readers, more viewers, and I love getting those photos. That's so fun.
Yeah.
It's a way for Connie Simon and Diane Lund and Wilma Stratman and Gina Franklin to contribute to their community newspaper. They're sending us photos. It's a way for the rest of Lansing to see examples of the flowers in their yard or the sunset over their house. It's those are small ways that bring our community together, and it's a fun thing to do. So even though the weather only gets about 100 views a day, I'm going to keep publishing it.
Yes, please do. It's good. So, and the news, we have some stories that we know are really gonna affect a lot of people and make waves and are a big deal. But there's also something to be said for the regular rhythm of a newspaper, reporting the daily news, reporting what goes on. People rely on that.
Right.
And so that's what we want to do.
You can count on that daily weather post.
That's right. So all of this kind of wrapped up is kind of I don't know if you call it defense, but just kind of our philosophy of why we publish news that might not always get a whole lot of views. And it's really, we are a newspaper. We're not chasing the views. We do find them important, like you said at the beginning. Scout finds them important too. But it's more than that. Being a newspaper is more than that. It's about sharing information regardless of whether or not we think it's going to be popular or make the rounds on social media or whatever. We aspire to more than that as the Lansing Journal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So thank you for your views. Thank you for your readership. Thank you for your photos. We appreciate all the community contributions to this newspaper. You make us the community newspaper that we are.
That's right.
Have a good week, everyone.
We'll see you later.